This is the story of a young girl with big dreams.
I believe Keontae could have done anything that she wanted to put her mind to.
He just got beat by Keontae.
And a big family to raise her.
Get it all over my face.
But when one night their backs are turned,
911, address your emergency.
For my sister and my nephew.
I know something was wrong.
a wolf in sheep's clothing
The predators is not always on the outside of your family.
will be ready to strike.
Did this really happen to us? To us, this family, did this really happen?
Okay.
November 4th, 1995, in Newburgh, New York.
Keontae. Hi.
Keontae Chavis has just turned 1.
Keontae's first birthday party was held at Grandma Mary's house in Newburgh, New York.
Keontae is a little camera shy and quickly looks for her adoring father, Tone.
I can't do it with my glasses.
My mother was there, and her thing back then was she would try to video record things so she can have it as something to look back later on in the years.
For Tone, every moment with his daughter is precious.
The early days of Keontae being a baby was a marvel. It was like every day was something different, like watching her grow, watching her say things, watching her do things. She was exploring the world and already like trying to understand things quickly. So I was very proud of her.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
As the family sing, little Keontae warms up to the attention.
Happy birthday to you. How old are you now? How old are you?
Keontae's mom, 17-year-old Nikesha Grissom, holds her.
In the 90s, Newburgh was kind of caught up in the crack epidemic, so it was kind of crazy. A lot of people had lost jobs, unemployed, high drug addiction, but it wasn't a bad city, it just was going through a crisis.
But when Nikesha and Tone met back in 1993, young love was enough.
What I liked about Tone is I thought he was cute and I thought he had swag and he had an outgoing personality.
I seen her out in front of her house and stuff, and I just thought that she was a nice person. So I introduced myself and got to know her.
The young couple are surprised with a blessing.
When I found out I was pregnant, I was very nervous. I was scared because I didn't know what my parents were going to think about, or my grandmother, if that's who I lived with, and I didn't know how she was going to feel about it.
I was shocked because I didn't know what to expect of that responsibility. Will I be a good dad? Will I be a bad dad?
When Keontae was born, I was still kind of scared being the first mom and being so young, but I thought it was the greatest experience I ever had.
Blow the can out, baby. Go and put it out with your hands. You can't blow it. Show how to blow it.
Becoming a father changed me because it made me feel like now I have a purpose.
Keontae's godmother, Faika, cuts the cake. But family joker Uncle Darryl doesn't think Keontae should wait to get a taste.
I like that, Dara. Get it all over Goofy's face. Look at Goofy.
My girlfriend at that time nicknamed Keontae Bouillon, so that's what we called her.
After the cake and candles, Tone makes the most of his time playing dad and goes through a fatherly ritual.
Back then, they used to make these toys so hard to get to them, and you had to unscrew a whole bunch of different things just to get to the batteries and stuff. But it just made me feel good as a father.
Keontae's great-grandmother, Mary, watches over her.
Okay.
Back in the early 90s, I lived with my grandmother growing up. She's a very passionate person, a very caring and kind person, and she loves to help people. She was the one that everyone goes to when they have problems or issues. She was just that go-to person.
Great-grandmother Mary and Nikesha's mother, Gail, often take care of Keontae while Tone works and Nikesha is at school.
Grandma Mary was like the head of the family, the enforcer of the family, the judge of the family, the person that called the shots, and you don't question Grandma Mary. Whatever she say is the law.
The family is all smiles for the camera. But a sad truth is about to bring a difficult decision.
Keisha and we dated, and things just kind of went its own way, I guess, because I was kind of young and felt invincible, like I could have the world.
A few years after this video was taken, Tone and Nikesha amicably split.
We no longer was interested in each other. And, we both went our separate ways.
In 1999, Nikesha starts college in Atlanta. So great-grandma Mary and grandmother Gail agree to take care of Keontae full-time.
It wasn't a difficult decision. She was so close to my grandmother. That bond, I guess, was just like the bond I had with my grandmother. So I was okay with it.
But by the mid-2000s, Newburgh has one of the highest crime rates in America. Grandmother Mary makes the difficult decision to move Keontae to the safety of her hometown, Phoenix City, Alabama.
That was a hard one to swallow, but a part of me knew that maybe that was the best thing, to get her out of here so she could have a better chance at a better quality of life.
Moving to Alabama is like night and day. Forests and trees, and one time some deer mating in the front yard, but I don't. Night and day.
Thanksgiving 2006. 12-year-old Keontae Chavis's family have reunited at her grandmother Mary's house.
You can have a cookie.
That's Grandma Mary there with the glasses, with her son Daryl.
First time by, you good too. Yeah.
Now in Phoenix City, Keontae is closer than ever to second cousin Courtney. That's Courtney standing there in the red with daughter Lexi.
She was my cousin, technically, but it just doesn't seem like a good enough term. She was closer to me than that. I guess I was like her aunt,
Out in the yard, Keontae, growing taller by the day, braves the cold with her cousin Todd in the striped shirt and his brother Tyson.
She loved basketball. It started from Michael Jordan's Space Jam. And she used to watch that movie over and over and over again.
Man, I'm freaking shivering. I freaking got chills. I don't see what y'all talking about. I take y'all to office. Hey, Ty, sup? He just got beat by Keontae.
Oh yeah, she could hold her own. I'm proud because She really knew how to handle the ball.
Keontae can be a shy kid,
Feel better than out
but surrounded by her family and on the basketball court, her personality shines through.
You know, she was quiet, but she had a huge presence.
Keontae puts passion to practice and joins the team at high school.
She had dreams of going to college for basketball.
But the end of the basketball season brings a devastating twist of fate.
Keontae sustained an injury while playing basketball. She fell on her leg and she messed her knee up.
And after that, she just didn't go back to playing.
In a split second, Keontae's hoop dreams have been shattered.
It was really tough seeing her, something she was passionate about and she no longer could do. She did lose confidence after that.
(2007) in Atlanta, Georgia. It's Keontae's cousin Adja's preschool graduation. There's Keontae, and there's Mom Courtney ready to take a photo of the big moment.
Aja was graduating pre-K. She was 6. Keontae was there, you know. She showed up for Aja. She seemed to take an interest to help Aja when she was little.
Aja Martinez.
Straight A student Keontae has been a big inspiration for Adja.
Keontae was a person who cared about getting good grades. She was just very motivated and driven that she was going to get an education and achieve some of her goals.
Since her knee injury, Keontae has put basketball behind her and starts looking for other opportunities.
Keontae had a lot of aspirations. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She wanted to become a model. She wanted to become a rapper. She had a lot of things she was interested in.
2010. 16-year-old Keontae is now a freshman at Central High School. She's grown closer to her cousin, Christian Grissom Jr., known to the family as Little Chris, who's recently been spending more time in Alabama.
Hey!
They were close as kids. Him and his sisters would stay at Grandma Mary's house.
They're cousins, but in my family, your cousin is like your brother or your sister almost.
Keontae and Christian had a good friendship. They got along well with each other. They would joke around with each other.
You heard this?
He has a partner and 3 kids in Florida, but he wants to split his time between them and his family in Alabama. After all, he's one of Grandma Mary's favorite grandchildren. And just as Keontae has always struggled with shyness, little Chris has faced his own self-esteem issues.
He was always chubby. I don't want to say a little fat kid, but that's what he was. He used to cry a lot, but he was really tough too. Sometimes people cry because I built up emotions and stuff like that too that they don't know how to properly channel.
But Keontae and little Chris soon discover a shared interest that brings them out of their shells.
Chris was into hip hop. And he's rhyming and stuff. And I was like, wow, man. And he had a name. I don't know where he got the name from. His name was Thirst Mega.
Encouraged by little Chris, Keontae challenges her shyness
Yeah.
and develops her passion for rap.
Once upon a time, there was a little chick.
Keontae's rap name was Wonderflow. Like wonderful or Wonderflow.
She writes her own music and records a copy for her uncle Clico, who also used to rap.
Keontae sent me an email and she was like, Uncle Clee, check this out. And I was like, whoa, like, where did this come from? Like, because like I said, she was quiet.
Keontae had surprised all of us because I didn't know she could rap.
But rap is just a hobby for Keontae. After graduating, she decides to follow her Uncle Clee's footsteps and join the Air Force.
She always said that she was gonna help take care of me and the family. And I guess that's why one of the reasons she wanted to go into the military.
August 2014. She passes the first Air Force written test with flying colors.
Mom, I did it. I passed.
She scored very high on the military test. At that point in time, I believe Keontae could have done anything that she wanted to put her mind to.
And things in her personal life are going well too.
Keontae's boyfriend, Trick, I met him a couple of times and he seemed to be, a kind person.
She told me that one day she would love to get married and she would love to have plenty of kids. And then I asked her, who's gonna take care of all those kids? She said, you and Mommy.
August 6th, 6:30 p.m. Nikesha gets a phone call from Keontae.
Hey, honey. You good?
She was explaining to me that she had a job interview the next morning, which was at Sam's Club. When she talked about her job interview, she was very excited and looking forward to it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It'll be enough income to support her until she joins the Air Force.
All right.
I ended the conversation with Keontae, wishing her good luck and letting her know that I will call her the next morning to talk with her, to get her prepared for the interview.
The next morning, Nikesha calls her mother Gail's house, where Keontae has been staying.
I called the house to check on Keontae, and Keontae wasn't there. A lot of things raced through my mind because I know she usually would be home that time of morning.
Hey, honey, it's Mom.
I called her several times.
I haven't heard from you.
Her phone went to voicemail. I called Sam Club that morning and asked to speak with the manager, and I asked him, did they have an interview scheduled for Keontae that morning? And he said yes, but she never showed up. That wasn't like Keontae to miss the interview, not something she was looking so forward to. After I heard that news, I became frightened because I know something was wrong.
(12 p.m. August 7th). And 19-year-old Keontae Chavis's uncharacteristic silence is worrying her family.
I was still in Atlanta, still trying to figure out what was going on, still calling her phone to see, why she wasn't answering and just trying to put things together.
The last person to hear anything from Keontae is her grandmother, Gail.
I don't know.
That night when Keontae went missing, Keontae's car had broken down somewhere near in Phoenix City. Keontae had called the house to let my mother know that her car had broken down.
That day, her cousin, little Chris, had just arrived from Florida for a family visit.
And my mother, since little Chris was already out, she had decided to tell him, can he pick Keontae up?
But neither she nor little Chris have heard from Keontae since the early hours, after little Chris had dropped her off at her boyfriend Trey's house. Keontae's family head to the local police station to report her missing. But despite their pleas, as she's been missing for less than 24 hours, Phoenix City police insist there's little they can do.
Typically, when someone's reported missing, they have just went off with friends, or maybe they don't want to be found at that point. Probably 99% of the time, missing persons are found.
The family are distraught, but with little choice, they return home. Nikesha calls Keontae's father, Tone.
When I received the first calls from Keisha, Keisha told me that our daughter is not answering the phone, and Keisha told me something happened to her. And at this point, now it's like starting to worry me. I caught a plane to Atlanta. Once we got to Alabama, some of the Grissom family met us at Mary Grissom's house, and we jumped in different cars. We circled the block. We asked people, did you see this person? And was putting out missing person flyers and stuff.
After 2 days with no contact from Keontae, grandmother Gail returns to the police station.
If you would, start from Wednesday and walk me till today.
Wednesday, she drove her car. And she called me and told me that a car broke down. So I said, well, let me call Little Chris, which is my nephew. So I called him and asked him, would you go get Keontae? Because the car didn't stop on him. So he said, okay.
Her car had broken down, and her cousin Christian was the one that went to help her.
I normally get up about 7.
Yes, ma'am.
No later than 7:30. And my first reaction, as soon as I got up, I went straight to her bedroom. When she went in there, I'm like, what the hell? That's when I heard him talking. And I come out there and said, where's Keontae? He's like, oh, she's not here? He told me, well, I dropped her off at a friend's house.
Little Chris had told Gail they'd both gone to a small gathering at Keontae's boyfriend Trey's house.
Later, they left together from her boyfriend's house. They went to get something to eat.
And then Christian says he dropped Keontae back at the boyfriend's house at 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then he goes home.
Concerned for Keontae, Gail makes another call.
I called Trey. He said he dropped off at. Yeah.
What did Trey have to say?
I asked Trey, I said, was Keontae over your house? He said, no. I said, look, Chris said that he dropped her off at your house. He said, Keontae didn't come back to my house. He said, after she left early, she did not come back to my house.
Did he say what time she left?
8 or 9. He said, the last time he saw Keontae.
But only a few hours later, at 5:29 p.m., Russell County Sheriff's Office receives a call from a family driving down a remote dirt track in Seal, Alabama.
The passenger observed what she thought was a body laying off on the side of the road and immediately called 911.
Investigators from Russell County Sheriff's Office rush to a remote dirt track in Seal, Alabama, where a body has been discovered. Chief Investigator Lieutenant Harold Smith is dispatched to the scene.
When I arrived at the scene on Ridge Road, the crime scene tape was up. We tried to get an initial round of photographs to document the scene, working our way up to the body. I knew immediately when I looked at the body that that was Keontae. We could tell that she had been there for a little bit of time, and she had some decomposure.
Forensic officers estimate she died sometime between 3 to 4 a.m. on the morning of August 7th.
She had blunt force trauma to the head and appeared that she had been strangled. We noticed that her pants were kind of turned sideways,
I don't know if that means that she was sexually assaulted or not.
The appearance of Keontae's clothing leads investigators to initially suspect sexual assault. But there is no forensic evidence to support the theory.
There's just no way of knowing, and I couldn't prove it.
By 7 p.m., 2 hours after her body has been located, officers break the devastating news to Keontae's family.
We received the call from the police about Keontae. Our family and I were told to come down to the police station.
When we got to the police station, the head sheriff came and announced to us that Keontae's not coming home.
Oh Lord, after I heard that news, I felt like I wanted to just faint. It was like a blow. And I felt numb, angry.
The family is called in to identify the body.
They said, please do not let her mother go out there to see her daughter like that. It's not her anymore. No one needs to see that as their last memory of their child. Said it would haunt her forever. So Grandma Mary and her grandmother Gail, they both went to view her.
Gail and Grandma Mary confirm the family's worst fears. Keontae is dead. It's late at night on August 9th when investigators interview Keontae's family and friends in what is now officially a homicide investigation.
We looked at everybody and spoke to everybody and interviewed everybody.
Little Chris is already on his way back to his family in Florida. While detectives try to reach him, they speak to Keontae's great uncle, Daryl.
What's your name? Daryl. Daryl. Okay. My mother called me and she said Keontae missing. So I was like, what do you mean Keontae missing? She said that she didn't come home that night. And little Chris said that he had dropped her off somewhere.
Daryl corroborates what Gail had told the police just hours earlier. Next door, investigators speak to another family member.
Keontae's cousin, Todd Tolliver, spoke with Christian on the telephone after he had left to get a specific timeline.
Basically, he walked me through the night. He was at Trey's house. They left around 9:30.
Okay.
Said he went to get something to eat.
Yes,
I asked him where they ate. He said Burger King. So they left. He said they went on to the liquor store.
Did he say, do you know if that was the Frisky Whiskey or the Villanova? Do you know if
The Villanova.
it was the Villanova?
It was the Villanova.
Perfect. Okay.
Investigators request CCTV from the liquor store to confirm Chris's story. And on the night of August 6th, just before 11 p.m., they get a hit.
We were able to see Christian's vehicle pull up. Christian got out and went into the liquor store.
Lil Chris appears to be alone.
But then Keontae followed him into the liquor store. Christian bought a couple of items. Everything appeared normal between Christian and Keontae. She did not appear to be stressed in any way. It seemed like they were having a normal night.
Back in the interview rooms, another potential suspect is coming under the spotlight.
She said to him, Little Chris, can you take me back to Trey's house?
That's what she was seeing, Trey. Trey? Yeah.
You know, a lot of these cases turn out to be a domestic violence scenario between a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So we were thinking, absolutely. I mean, it could be Trey.
Grandmother Gail's boyfriend also highlights his suspicions.
My personal opinion, I didn't like him from the beginning. He's hung out with us for a couple times, and I just didn't feel too comfortable with it.
On August 10th, police are dispatched to Trey's house. They discover he lived with his cousin Garrett, who was also at the house the night Keontae disappeared. Police bring them both in for questioning.
When we spoke to Trey about that night, I remember him saying that he comes home from work. It's 6:30 or 7 in the afternoon. He sees Keontae and Christian there in the yard, speaks to them. He has to go back to work, so he leaves and goes back to work.
When officers speak to Garrett, he confirms Trey's story.
Garrett relayed that he had seen Keontae and Christian at the house during the time that Trey had come by, and then Trey went back to work, and Garrett says that Keontae and Christian were going to get some food, and then they were going to go by the liquor store, and then they were coming back to his house.
They eventually left around 9:30 p.m. Throughout the night, Garrett claims he was out on the porch, waiting for Keontae. But neither she nor little Chris ever appeared. Because of previous run-ins with police, Garrett was wearing an ankle monitor that night.
We were able to check Garrett's ankle monitor, and the GPS stated that he was at the house during the time of Keontae's death.
And despite their earlier suspicions of Trey, investigators find him cooperative and his alibi solid.
So we felt pretty good that they had actually not been involved.
All leads point to the moment Chris says he dropped her back at Trey's. Either something happened to Keontae before she made it to the house, or little Chris has been lying. And when Russell County Sheriff's Office obtains little Chris's phone records, what they discover will blow the case wide open.
His cell phone pinged off of a cell tower that was 0.95 miles from the body.
The ping is recorded at approximately 3 a.m. on the morning of August 7th.
Which meant he had to be extremely close to Keontae's body on Ridge Road.
Police drone footage of the area shows a remote rural expanse.
There was no place in the city that would have hit that tower. That told me that he purposefully was on that road, putting his cell phone in the vicinity of the body. That was a huge step for us. We felt like we had our man.
The little Chris is nowhere to be found. August 11th, 2014. Platkill, New York.
911, address your emergency.
The caller is outside Christian Grissom's mother's house.
Okay, what's going on there?
We have a little family disturbance here.
You have an argument going on there?
Yeah.
Who's having the argument?
Would you please get it off to me?
Who are you having the argument?
Little Chris isn't back home in Florida. He's at his mother's house in Platkill. And Keontae's Newburgh relatives are about to confront him.
I got men trying to assault my sister and my nephew.
All right, I'm going to send some help, all right?
When the police arrive, it's little Chris who's put in cuffs.
When they got there, the defendant was there and they arrested him and they impounded his vehicle.
I immediately dispatched my chief investigator at the time, Lieutenant Harold Smith, to drive to New York with the arrest warrant.
Detectives take little Chris to the station. But before they can get him into the interrogation room, he lawyers up. They look for signs of a struggle.
We were able to see a bite mark on his chest, a plain, very visible bite mark.
Perhaps Keontae bit him in an effort to defend herself.
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
Christian. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. You all right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all right for now. They took me over there for questioning and stuff, and I ain't saying nothing without a lawyer. I mean, they took a picture of my hands, they took a picture of my chest, because, I mean, I got a little bruise and a little bite mark on my chest, but that bite mark is old. That's from like 2 weeks ago.
We were able to get a recording of Christian admitting that they were bite marks. We were able to speak with his girlfriend in Florida.
Little Chris's partner is cooperative and responsive to police inquiries.
And she emphatically said that when he left Florida, that he did not have bite marks of any kind on his chest.
I just want this to be over with, man. I just want to go home.
That same afternoon, Lieutenant Harold Smith finally arrives at Platkill Police Department.
We wanted to be present for the execution of the search warrant on his vehicle. Pretty quickly saw that there was a blood smear on the headliner at the dome light. So we cut that piece of material out of the headliner and submitted that to the Alabama Department of Forensic Science.
And later, the results confirm his suspicions.
That was Keontae's blood.
It's the final piece of evidence they need. And little Chris is charged with the murder of his own cousin.
It's just hard for me to live with the fact that the betrayal came from within a family circle.
Little Chris's motive remains a mystery.
Why did he do it? What could she done so wrong to make him take her life? I don't know if he was drinking and maybe took his frustration and anger out on her.
But some family members do have another theory.
I think personally he may have been attracted to her and maybe tried something and it didn't work out the way he thought it was going to work out. And then I think it came to her maybe saying that she's going to call some family and call somebody on him, and he just lost it.
At his trial on August 28, 2017, Lil Chris maintains his innocence.
What else is he going to say? I did it? No. He committed to the fact that he wasn't involved in this. He denied ever doing this to her.
Prosecutors lay out their theory. After leaving Trey's house at around 9:30 p.m., he took her to the liquor store to buy her drinks.
After they left the Villanova liquor store, they went driving around the area here, and they ended up on that lonely, remote dirt road.
And they got into a fight. And the fight occurred right there where we think the body was left.
It's likely she fought back, but she was unable to overpower him.
He strangled her, he hit her in her face, and that he bludgeoned her to death. It's a pretty horrible way to kill someone, especially someone that you are related to.
He dumped her body on the side of the road and then drove to Gail's house.
The jury was out 30, 40 minutes and came back with a guilty verdict.
Christian Grissom Jr. is found guilty of murder and is sentenced to life without parole.
Christian's action shows me he's a sociopath. I mean, he cares nothing about anyone else, only about himself. That's a monster, and he's where he should be.
For the family, it's a cruel pill to swallow.
Did this really happen to us? To us, this family, did this really happen?
The predators that can harm your family are not always on the outside of your family. Sometimes they could be in your family core and lurking and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
On the 6th anniversary of her death, Keontae's family reunite to release balloons in her memory.
I want people to remember Keontae, her warm spirit, and just keep that in their hearts.
I like to remember the saying we put on the shirts for her funeral is, heaven couldn't wait for you, because I don't know any other explanations, you know?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go, baby. We love you, baby. We love you, baby.
You gotta let it go. And you gotta move forward. Because Keontae doesn't want to see me upset. She just wants me to go ahead and live the best life I can live. And when my day comes that I descend into the afterlife, we'll see each other again.
Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine. Sometimes it is for money. Sometimes it is because of an insane, consuming jealousy. And sometimes it is simply because they want to wipe someone off the face of the earth, like they are some piece of old, unwanted furniture. I spent 31 years of my life in law enforcement, 23 of those years looking into the eyes of killers. And I am telling you, evil does not always wear the face of a monster. It wears the face of the spouse sleeping next to you, or the neighbor who says hello every morning. Let me tell you about 2 cases, 2 scars that time can never wash away. The first incident happened on November 18th, 2011 in Ashtabula, Ohio. Daniel Posey Brown, a 45-year-old man, a dedicated father, was driving down a desolate stretch of road known as State Route 193. It is a 2-lane road with nothing but cornfields and silent silos on either side, standing in the dark. Daniel was heading home after a long shift, with a gift in the car for his 7-year-old son. Everything seemed routine until a chestnut horse suddenly bolted into the middle of the road. A horrific collision. Daniel was killed instantly. People called it a tragic accident. But no, I have been on this job long enough to know that accidents are sometimes just a mask for something much darker. A man named James Holly, a former boxer with a checkered past, walked into the sheriff's office with a story that would make your skin crawl. He claimed that the victim's wife, Angel Brown, had hired him to kill Daniel's ex-wife, Lisa Luke. You have to believe me, I have heard every kind of confession, but this one, it was cold to the bone. Angel Brown was not just a grieving widow, she was a manipulator. She hated Lisa because of financial disputes and inheritance issues from Daniel's estate. She wanted Lisa gone. I saw the coldness in her eyes when she thought she had successfully hired a hitman. She was ready to pay to see blood spilled. It is truly astonishing. People like that, they never think about the consequences. They only think about getting what they want at any cost. And then there is the second case, a story that began on March 29th, 1990 in Pulaski, Tennessee. Larry Hughes, a 43-year-old businessman, a good man who had overcome the loss of his hand to build a life, suddenly vanished. His wife, Marion Hughes, played the perfect role. She said her husband had run off with another woman. A clumsy lie, but in the world of killers, clumsiness is sometimes the most effective disguise. 16 days later, they found Larry's body in a ditch, completely nude, discarded like trash. 2 bullets in the skull. That was not a voluntary disappearance. That was an execution. It took investigators decades, 25 years to be exact, to drag the truth out into the light. You know, the truth has a way of rising to the surface. The blood stains on the floorboards beneath the carpet, the mattress stuffing that Marion had frankly shredded and burned, they all told a story she tried to bury. She did it for money, for jealousy, or for whatever twisted reason sprouted in her mind. Finally, she had to admit to the killing in 2019. You look at these 2 cases, and what do you see? Greed, envy, and a complete disregard for human life. Angel and Marion, those women turned their homes into death traps. I have seen many killers, but every time I look at the truth behind cases like these, I ask myself, will humans ever learn to appreciate what they have instead of trying to destroy someone else's life? I am afraid not. Evil is always there, lurking in the shadows of the most mundane excuses. Remember that. Everything might look like an accident or a random disappearance, but if you look deeper, you will always find the fingerprints of malicious intent. Never let your guard down too easily, because sometimes the people closest to you are the most dangerous. This life is fragile, and I am telling you, justice might come late, but will always arrive, whether it takes 10 years or 25. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill each other for the most ridiculous reasons you can possibly imagine. You know, I spent 38 years as a homicide detective, and I have seen all sorts of horrific things. But sometimes the truth is indeed stranger than fiction. You ever ask yourself what on earth is going on in this world? Look at this case on a remote ranch in Applegate, Oregon, on the 26th of July, 2016. A man named Shane Patrick Moore lay dead on his front porch with a bullet hole in his chest. One crime scene for potential suspects and a mess of conflicting statements. I tell you, it was like a real-life game of Clue where everyone was trying to hide the truth. Kelly Moore, the victim's sister, and her daughter, Tucker Moorreed, came forward with a tale of fear. They claimed Shane was a dangerous man, a black sheep of the family, who threatened their lives. Tucker, the young niece, insisted it was self-defense. She said she had found her grandfather's gun, and when Shane forced his way into the house, she fired in a blind panic. A perfect performance, right? But wait, because that actually makes me laugh. Tucker was an actress, a young woman with big dreams who had starred in a horror movie where her character also shot someone in a self-defense scenario. Do you believe in coincidences? I certainly do not. When we dug deeper into the case, we realized this was not self-defense. This was cold-blooded, calculated murder. The evidence showed that the gun had been reloaded after being fired earlier that day. They had prepared for this. They had staged the scene. And when we finally got our hands on the cell phone footage recorded by the family themselves, everything became crystal clear. Shane was not being aggressive. He was simply trying to settle a dispute over family property. And he was gunned down by the people he should have been able to trust. It was pure, unadulterated greed. Kelly spent the whole time painting Shane as a monster, but she was the one who had been bleeding her parents dry for years. To them, Shane was a financial obstacle that needed to be removed. Tucker pulled the trigger, and Kelly stood there, essentially cheering on the carnage, asking why the man was not dead yet. You have to be kidding me. Does that sound like a family in fear to you? I tell you, people can become so depraved when money is put on the table. After all the lies, Tucker eventually pleaded guilty to manslaughter, a sentence I feel was nowhere near enough for such a ruthless act. The victim, a man who had spent 6.5 years caring for his ailing father, had his life stolen by his own blood. Life is rarely fair, and this case is a chilling reminder of the darkest parts of human nature. where greed turns kin into killers. Do you ever wonder if those people ever sleep soundly after doing something like that? I do not think so. They lost their humanity that day, and that is a penalty far greater than anything a court could ever hand down. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine. You think you know someone, you think you understand them, but then the mask slips and all you find beneath it is a dark pit of selfishness and malice. Listen to me now, because this is the story of Dr. Michael Tavis, his wife Deborah, and a woman named Teresa Ramirez in Petaluma, California, on the 3rd of July, 1997. It was a perfectly ordinary Thursday morning until it was anything but ordinary. Employees at a physical therapy office nearby heard popping noises. They assumed it was firecrackers, an innocent enough excuse for what was actually unfolding. Deborah Tavis made a frantic call to 911, speaking of a shooting in her husband's plastic surgery office. The police arrived, the building was surrounded, and when they moved in, they saw what no one should ever have to see. Dr. Michael Tavis was lying on the floor, dead from multiple gunshot wounds, and his office manager, Kay Carter, had been shot in the head, clinging to life. You have to be kidding me if you think this was a murder-suicide. There was no weapon. The killer walked out with it right in the middle of the day, a brazen, cold-blooded crime. As we dug into the life of Michael Tavis, we found a man held in high regard, a surgeon in the top 10% of his field, but beneath the surface lay a life riddled with deep, festering wounds. Deborah provided us with a list of 5 disgruntled patients, and there sat the name Teresa Ramirez. Teresa was a former nurse, a solitary woman who had undergone a double mastectomy after a cancer diagnosis, and then subjected herself to a half-dozen failed reconstructive surgeries. She was not insane. She was simply evil. We found a notebook in her possession, a hit list with the name of Dr. Tavis and others she viewed as targets. She had planned this with precision, carrying $5,000 in cash and 2 handguns. When we found her in a San Francisco hotel, incapacitated by a diabetic coma, that book was still with her. She truly believed she could correct the perceived flaws in her own body by ending the life of the man she blamed for her unhappiness. The sheer arrogance of it is staggering. At trial, the defense tried to hide behind a diagnosis of body dysmorphic disorder, but do not let that fool you. She had a choice, and she chose to be a monster. She was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Michael Tavis was taken at just 53 years old, and Kay Carter fought for her life until she eventually passed away in the year 2012. Their lives were shattered because one woman could not stop obsessing over her own reflection. My, it is a horrific waste of human existence. You look in a mirror, see an enemy, and decide the entire world must pay for your dissatisfaction. It is disgusting. They say Dr. Tavis was a kind man, and I believe them because the good ones are so often the ones who pay the ultimate price for the madness of the selfish. You have to be careful who you let into your world, because sometimes the most dangerous monster is not hiding in the shadows. It is sitting in your waiting room, waiting for a reason to burn everything you have built to the ground. I have seen this too many times in my career, and I can tell you that nothing is ever enough for someone who has no concept of gratitude. The truth is, you never truly know who you are dealing with until the gun goes off, and by then, the damage is already done. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine, and in my line of work, domestic cases always leave a bitter taste in my mouth. Let me tell you about Jose Reyes Ramos, a young man from Honduras who came to Chicago with dreams of a better life, only to end up buried in his lover's backyard. It all started in May 2013, when his brother Jorge walked into the precinct in a total panic. Jose had been missing for 4 days, which was completely out of character for a hard-working man who sent money home like clockwork. But the thing that really caught my eye wasn't just a disappearance. It was the last text Jose sent to his brother, the Spanish word for death. You have to be kidding me. You think it's a prank, but in my world, when a tough man sends you that, it's a death warrant. We started peeling back the layers of Jose's life. A skilled construction worker, a doting uncle, and that's when we ran into a name, Daisy Gutierrez. I tell you, women are a mystery, and in this case, Daisy wasn't just his brother's ex. She was the center of a toxic love triangle. She fed us a load of garbage about being kidnapped by a van load of thugs, trying to pin it on the Zeta Cartel. A crazy story, a terrible script. When we dug up that backyard, the smell hit us, the smell of death, of an unforgivable crime. They had planned the whole thing. Chopped him up, bagged him in trash bags, and buried him right where her mother planted flowers. It is sickening. In the end, Milton Miranda, the real killer, confessed to it all. He killed Jose just to prove his twisted love to Daisy. Daisy, the mastermind, only got 16 years, while Milton got 30. To me, justice sometimes feels like a reluctant bargain, and I still wonder, if Jose had never stepped foot in that house, would he be back in Honduras today, watching his family thrive? That is the nature of cruelty. It doesn't come from some distant darkness, but from the people we once called our own. It is another case. Another wake-up call about how far people will go to erase someone just because of petty, small-minded conflicts. Then there's the case of Major Carl Herrig, a United States Air Force pilot, a man who had everything, only to be executed by his newlywed wife. March 15, 2007. We found Carl at the bottom of his stairs, shot in the head and back. And the thing that chilled me to the bone, something I had never seen in 25-plus years on the job, was the booby trap set up in the master bedroom closet. A gun rigged to the doorframe, aimed at whoever opened it. If it had been a cop, they would have been dead on the spot. Claudia Herrig, his Brazilian wife, was long gone with her car. She had planned it all, drained $10,000, wired it to Brazil, and flew out right after the deed. She thought she was home free, but she was wrong. 10 years of international red tape, and finally, she was dragged back to Ohio. On the drive back, she told the marshals that a wife doesn't kill her husband for no reason. Her reason? Pathological jealousy over his ex-girlfriend and a fake pregnancy she couldn't prove to a single doctor or hospital. She staged that trap not to kill herself, as she claimed in court, but to take out anyone who dared enter that room after she left. In the end, the jury saw through it, and she got life in prison. Carl didn't get to live the rest of his life. And the people responsible finally learned that no matter how far you run, the truth has a way of catching up to you. Life is a series of choices. And these killers chose raw malice to end conflicts that should have been settled with a simple goodbye. It is truly a tragedy, I tell you. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine. You want to hear about that case? Pull up a chair. This story is not for the faint of heart. I have seen a lot of evil in my career, but the events in Clayton County, Georgia, on December 29th, 2017, were something else entirely. My, you would not believe the level of depravity a person can sink to when they let selfishness override their humanity. The victim was Raheem Grant, an aspiring rapper with a lot of promise, whom you might know by the stage name Red BZ. He was only 28 years old. A young man, a father who loved his little girl, someone on the cusp of making it big. But that night, the music stopped for good because of gunfire when the police arrived on the scene. They found Raheem lying there on the floor in a state that I can only describe as horrific. 3 gunshot wounds. 2 in his back, 1 in his head. A gruesome scene that would make anyone shudder. But here's the kicker. Sierra Harp, his ex-girlfriend, and the mother of his child, showed up with stab wounds of her own. She was screaming, hysterical, acting as if she were the victim. You know, I have heard all kinds of testimonies in my life, but manipulation, you can always smell it. She claimed it was self-defense. She claimed Raheem was the aggressor. But let me tell you, the truth always has a way of catching up to a liar. I tell you, this case was a labyrinth of lies. At first, It looked like a clear-cut case of self-defense. But why was there a bullet hole in the bathroom mirror? Why were there so many shell casings scattered around? And most importantly, why did the victim have a gunshot wound to the top of his head while he was lying on the ground? Those details did not fit the narrative of a woman under attack. The puzzle pieces started coming together when we seized Raheem's cell phone. I told him from the beginning, find that phone. If he was doing anything, it was recorded on that device. And sure enough, that was the final nail in her coffin. You have to understand, people pushed to the edge reveal their true selves. In the videos recovered, Sierra did not look like someone terrified or defending her life. On the contrary, she was screaming in pure, unadulterated rage. She looked at Raheem as he was bleeding out, pleading to just hug his little daughter, Angel, one last time, and she coldly told him that he could crawl to her mother. Then she fired. That is not self-defense. That is the behavior of a cold-blooded murderer. I have seen a lot of evil in my career, but I have never seen evil document itself like that. You are dancing with the devil. Kid! In May of 2019, when the truth was laid bare before a jury, Sierra Harp was found guilty of malice murder and aggravated assault. Justice was served, but the cost was far too high. A father was gone, and a child lost both parents in one fateful night. You see, when you let jealousy and possessiveness control you, you are not just killing someone else. You are destroying your own life in the process. People can try to cover up the truth with lies, but the cold, hard evidence, the shell casings, the digital footprint, those things do not lie. That is a harsh reality of life I have had to deal with for decades. Nothing stays hidden from justice forever. Now that you have heard the facts of this tragedy, would you like me to dive deeper into the manipulative psychology of the perpetrator? Or shall we move on to another case with its own set of dark secrets? Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine. You see a friendly face, a bright smile, and you think you know them. But when the darkness rolls in, when jealousy begins to gnaw at the soul, people can turn into someone you would not even want to look at. I have been there, standing at the scene of these horrific crimes, and I tell you, the price of blindness in love is a human life. Let's start with James Berry, a kind-hearted young man, a gamer with potential, in Loxahatchee, Florida, on November 17, 2016. My, have you ever wondered what drives a mother to call 911 in absolute terror? It was when she found her son, James, lying on his bedroom floor, with blood gushing everywhere, on the bed, on the floor, on the walls. The kid never did anything wrong. He was a good soul. Yet, the weapon was lying right there, a 10-inch knife with a white handle, devoid of fingerprints. Who was the killer? Was it an intruder? Or someone he trusted with his life? As we dug deeper, the truth emerged in the most painful way. His girlfriend, Melanie Eam, a quiet, shy girl, but beneath that exterior lay a possessiveness that was suffocating. He simply wanted to end the relationship, a perfectly rational decision, but Melanie could not accept it. The red flags had been there for a long time, from the poisoning of a friend's aquarium to those theatrical threats of suicide. I tell you, jealousy blinded her. She lashed out, stabbing him to death, leaving a family in ruins. You have to understand, when love turns into obsession, it is no longer love. It is a death sentence. Can you believe it? Even when she was apprehended, she tried to shift the blame to circumstances. But justice, though it may be slow, eventually caught up to her. 50 years in prison. That is a heavy price for a moment of unchecked selfishness. And then we have the case of Kelly Brennan on February 15, 2010. A nurse full of compassion, someone who fought multiple sclerosis with the spirit of a warrior. Yet, she was brutally murdered in a way I could hardly fathom. A blow to the head, a fractured skull, no signs of a struggle. It was a cowardly strike from behind. The perpetrator was a close friend, Sheila Graham Trott. Look at the irony of fate. Sheila and Kelly were part of the same social circle. They cycled together. But when Sheila's marriage fell apart, She saw Kelly as the one who stole her happiness. When the police questioned her, she spoke of dreams. She spun a web of illusions, leading us to Mark's Landing, where Kelly's body was discovered. You see, how could a normal person know the exact location of a body unless they were the one who put it there? Her own sons, poor boys dragged into this nightmare, finally revealed the truth. She had ended the life of her own friend, and then tried to use her children to cover it up. That is the most despicable thing a human being could do. Sheila tried to justify her actions in a letter filled with lies, but the evidence was overwhelming. Jealousy did not just kill Kelly, it destroyed Sheila's own family. She received a life sentence. That is the only fitting punishment for someone who allowed hatred to consume their humanity. People are frightening, are they not? We all seek happiness, but sometimes we destroy it ourselves because we cannot control our own egos. These cases are a harsh lesson in vigilance. Cherish the people around you because you never know when jealousy might turn a friend into your most dangerous enemy. Never ignore the red flags. Never believe that darkness cannot find its way to your home, no matter how good you are. I have seen enough to know that in this world, the truth is always bitter, and sometimes it is right under our noses, just waiting to be uncovered. Humans are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you can imagine. I have walked into rooms where the air is thick with the scent of death, and I have seen the absolute worst that human beings have to offer. Let me tell you about two cases that stick in my craw even to this day. First, you have Shirley Pierce in Kannapolis, North Carolina, a woman with a bright future, a grandmother, a lady who had found love again with Chuck Reeves, only to have it ripped away by an obsessive woman named Marlene Johnson. The sheer audacity of jealousy. Marlene was convinced that Shirley was having an affair with her husband, Irvin, but there was no affair, just a figment of a disturbed and possessive mind. When we found Shirley in that bathtub with the water running, the place reeked of bleach. Someone was trying to scrub away their sins, but they left a trail of destruction behind them that led straight to our suspect. We processed the scene. We found a deoxyribonucleic acid, and eventually, the weight of the evidence crushed Marlene Johnson when the jury returned a guilty verdict. You have to be kidding me. To think someone would throw away their life and take another based on a paranoid delusion that never existed. Then you take a look out west in Prescott, Arizona, and you have a 19-year-old girl named Pamela Pitts whose life was cut short in a way that is hard to even wrap your head around. Her body was burned beyond recognition, dumped in a fire pit, and the rumors started flying about satanic cults and ritual killings, which is what happens when people are scared and looking for answers where none exist. We chase leads, we chase shadows. And for years the case went cold until another body turned up in a vertical mine shaft. That was Ray Clerks, the boyfriend of the roommate of Pamela, Shelley Norgard. Suddenly, the pieces of the puzzle started to fit together. Shelley was a cold-blooded operator who knew how to dispose of evidence, and she had been hiding in plain sight. It took 23 years for justice to catch up with her, but we got there when I heard that jailhouse phone call where she practically incriminated herself. I knew we had finally closed the book on a killer who had walked free for far too long. I tell you, evil is not some grand, theatrical thing that announces itself at the door. It is often quiet, it is often mundane, and it lives in the hearts of people you might see at the grocery store or meet at a dinner party. Whether it's an obsessive wife like Marlene or a manipulative roommate like Shelley, the result is the same. Lives are ruined, families are destroyed, and we are left to pick up the pieces and wonder how it all went so wrong. It is a burden, it is a tragedy, and it is a reality of the business I have spent my life doing. You have to be meticulous, you have to be patient, and you have to have the stomach to look directly into the abyss and not blink. I have seen enough to know that the truth is never hidden forever, and eventually, everyone has an answer for what they have done. This is the story of a young girl with big dreams. I believe she could have done anything that she wanted to put her mind to. She was surrounded by a big, loving family who wanted nothing but the best for her. Her life was a testament to potential and the warmth of a close-knit family bond. But there are moments in life where the path forward is suddenly blocked, where the light is extinguished by the very people we trust. This story takes place on November 4th, 1995, in Newburgh, New York. It was a time of celebration, the first birthday of a little girl named Kiani. The atmosphere at Grandma Mary's house was filled with the sounds of laughter and the flicker of cameras trying to capture every fleeting moment of a child growing up. Kiani was a little camera shy, looking for the safety and comfort of her father, Tone. He was a man who found every moment with his daughter to be precious. He watched her with a sense of wonder, seeing her grow, hearing her first attempt at speech, and witnessing her explore the world with a curious spirit. At that time, Kiani's mother, 17-year-old Nickwisha Grissom, held her close. The city of Newburgh in the 1990s was a place caught in the middle of a difficult crisis, a period often remembered for the challenges of the drug epidemic and the ripple effects it had on the community. Many people had lost their jobs, and there was a pervasive sense of struggle. Yet, amid the crisis, life continued. When Nickwisha and Tone had met back in 1993, they were young, and their love felt like enough to face the world. Tone possessed a charisma and an outgoing personality, and Nickwisha was a gentle soul. When they learned they were expecting, they were nervous, as many young parents are, but they were also filled with a new sense of purpose. As the family sang happy birthday, little Kiani began to warm up to the attention. The godmother, Fika, cut the cake, and the family joker, Uncle Darrell, shared in the joy. Tone, ever the dedicated father, navigated the complexities of parenting, including the small but significant triumphs, like finally successfully opening a toy to get to the batteries. It made him feel good as a father to provide those small joys. Grandma Mary was the cornerstone of the family. In the early 1990s, she was a head, the enforcer, the judge, and the person everyone went to for advice. If Grandma Mary said something was law, it was law. She, along with Grandmother Gail, often took care of the little girl, while her parents were busy with school and work. As years passed, the natural course of life led Tone and Nickwisha to go their separate ways. It was an amicable split, born of the realization that they were very young and growing in different directions. In 1999, Nickwisha began college in Atlanta, and the decision was made for the little girl to remain with her grandmother. It was a choice made from love, not from difficulty. The bond between the child and her grandmother was profound. However, by the mid-2000s, the environment in Newburgh had changed, and the crime rate had risen significantly. Grandma Mary made the hard decision to move the family to her hometown of Phoenix City, Alabama. It was a difficult transition, but it was done to offer the child a better quality of life and a safer environment. The move felt like day and night, trading the city streets for the quiet, natural beauty of forests and fields. By Thanksgiving of 2006, the young girl, now 12 years old and known to the family as Kiante, was thriving. She was reunited with her family at Grandma Mary's house. She shared a special bond with her second cousin, Courtney, who was more like an aunt than a cousin. Out in the yard, Kiante showed her spirit, braving the cold to play with her cousins Todd and Tyson. She loved basketball, a passion ignited by the movie Space Jam, which she watched over and over again. She was quiet, but she possessed a huge presence on the court. Tragically, just as her dreams of high school basketball were taking shape, a twist of fate intervened. She suffered a severe knee injury that sidelined her permanently. It was a difficult moment, witnessing a passion being stripped away in an instant. Her confidence took a hit, but Kiante was resilient. She was a straight A student who cared deeply about her future. She aspired to be a veterinarian, a model, a musician, and much more. She was a person of many dreams. By the year 2010, 16-year-old Kiante was a freshman. She had grown close to her cousin, Christian Grissom Jr., known to the family as Little Chris. In their family, cousins were like siblings. Little Chris had his own struggles with self-esteem, often carrying the weight of being a chubby child who felt the need to hide his emotions. But he and Keontae bonded over a shared interest in hip-hop music. Keontae, who had adopted the rap name Wonderflow, was talented and creative, a side of her that surprised the entire family. She even recorded music for her Uncle Clee. After high school, Keontae decided to follow in her uncle's footsteps and join the Air Force. She wanted to build a life where she could take care of her family. In August of 2014, she passed her military exam with flying colors. Everything seemed to be falling into place. She had a boyfriend, Trit, whom the family liked, and she was looking forward to the future. On August 6, 2014, at 6:30 in the evening, Nikwisha received a call from Keontae. She was excited about a job interview the next morning at a local store. They spoke, and her mother wished her good luck, promising to call the next morning to help her prepare. But the next morning, when the call was made, Keontae was not there. Panic began to set in. Her phone went to voicemail. When the family contacted the store, they learned she had never arrived for her interview. For someone as responsible and motivated as Keontae, this was entirely out of character. The family began the agonizing process of searching for her. Her grandmother, Gail, recalled the last time she had seen her. Her car had broken down, and little Chris had been the one to help her. He claimed he had taken her to her boyfriend Trey's house and then gone home. But Trey insisted she never arrived there. The story did not add up. The police were notified, but in those first 24 hours, they could do little. The family, desperate and terrified, took matters into their own hands, circling the streets and handing out missing person flyers. It was a nightmare that no family should ever have to endure. On August 7th, at 5:29 in the evening, the peaceful veneer of a remote dirt track in Seal, Alabama, was shattered. A passerby spotted a body and called 911. The investigators arrived to find the worst possible outcome. It was Keontae. She had been gone for a short time, and the signs of violence were evident. Her life had been cut short in a senseless act of brutality. The news devastated the family. To have to identify a loved one under such circumstances is a pain that leaves a permanent scar. The investigators began the long and tedious process of a homicide investigation. They interviewed everyone. Little Chris, who had claimed he'd drop her off, became the primary focus. When they obtained his phone records, the truth was revealed. His phone had pinged off a tower less than 1 mile from where Keontae's body was found, at 3 a.m. Little Chris had fled to his mother's house in New York, but the law caught up to him. When the police arrested him, they discovered a bite mark on his chest. It was a mark of defense, a silent testimony from Keontae, who had fought for her life. Inside his vehicle, investigators found a smear of blood on the headliner, later confirmed through forensic analysis to be Keontae's. The motive for such a heinous act remains a shadow. Perhaps it was a sudden, violent temper, perhaps a rejection, or perhaps the dark side of someone who felt entitled to something they could not have. At his trial in August of 2017, Christian Grissom Jr. maintained his innocence, but the evidence was insurmountable. The jury returned a guilty verdict, and he was sentenced to life without parole. The betrayal of a family member is a uniquely painful wound. It reminds us that sometimes the predators are not always on the outside. They can be part of the very fabric of our lives, lurking in the shadows of trust. But in the wake of such a tragedy, the family chose to keep Keontae's memory alive. They remember her not for how she died, but for how she lived. They remember her spirit, her dreams, and the love she brought into the world. On the anniversary of her passing, the family gathered to release balloons into the sky, a symbol of her spirit soaring free. They reminded each other that they had to move forward, because that is what Keontae would have wanted. They chose to live the best lives they could, honoring her existence by continuing to love and support one another. Heaven could not wait for her, but she remains, forever young and forever loved, in the hearts of those who knew her. This is the story of a young girl with big dreams. I believe that Keontae could have done anything that she wanted to put her mind to, supported by a big family who raised her with love and care. But life is unpredictable, and even when families are close, there are shadows that can creep in when one least expects it. The story begins on November 4th, 1995, in Newburgh, New York. Keontae Chavis had just turned 1. Her first birthday party was held at the house of her grandmother Mary. Little Keontae was camera shy and quickly looked for her adoring father, Tone. He could not do it with his glasses on, as his mother was there, and her habit back then was to try to video record things so that she could have them as memories to look back on in the years to come. For Tone, every moment with his daughter was precious. The early days of Keontae being a baby were a marvel. It was as if every day was something different, watching her grow, watching her say things, and watching her do things. She was exploring the world and was already trying to understand things quickly. Tone was very proud of her. As the family sang happy birthday, little Keontae warmed up to the attention. Her mother, 17-year-old Niquisha Grissom, held her close. In the 90s, Newburgh was caught up in the crack epidemic, and it was a chaotic time. A lot of people had lost jobs, unemployment was high, and there was significant drug addiction. But it was not a bad city. It was just going through a crisis. When Niquisha and Tone met back in 1993, young love was enough. Tone liked her because he thought she was cute, had style, and possessed an outgoing personality. He saw her out in front of her house and introduced himself to get to know her. The young couple was soon surprised with a blessing. When Niquisha found out she was pregnant, she was very nervous and scared because she did not know what her parents or her grandmother, with whom she lived, would think. Tone was also shocked, wondering if he would be a good father. When Keontae was born, the experience changed him. It made him feel like he finally had a purpose. Keontae's godmother, Fika, cut the cake at the party, but the family joker, Uncle Daryl, did not think Keontae should wait to get a taste. The family nicknamed her Keontae, and that was what they called her. After the cake and candles, Tone made the most of his time playing dad, engaging in the fatherly ritual of assembling toys. Back then, they used to make those toys so difficult to get into, requiring one to unscrew a whole bunch of different things just to get to the batteries. It made him feel good as a father. Keontae's great-grandmother, Mary, watched over her. She lived with her grandmother growing up, and Mary was a very passionate, caring, and kind person who loved to help people. She was the one that everyone went to when they had problems or issues. Great-grandmother Mary and the mother of Niquisha, Gail, often took care of Keontae while Tone worked and Niquisha was at school. Grandma Mary was like the head of the family, the enforcer, the judge, and the person who called the shots. Whatever she said was the law. The family was all smiles to the camera, but a sad truth was about to bring a difficult decision. Tone and Niquisha dated for a while, but things eventually went their separate ways because they were young and felt invincible. A few years after the birthday video was taken, they split amicably. In 1999, Niquisha started college in Atlanta. Great-grandmother Mary and grandmother Gail agreed to take care of Keontae full-time. That bond was strong and natural, mirroring the bond Niquisha had once had with her own grandmother. By the mid-2000s, Newburgh had one of the highest crime rates in the country. Grandmother Mary made the difficult decision to move Keontae to the safety of her hometown, Phoenix City, Alabama. That was a hard reality to swallow. But a part of the family knew it was the best thing to give her a chance at a better quality of life. Moving to Alabama was like night and day. There were forest trees, and at one point, deer mating in the front yard. By Thanksgiving of 2006, 12-year-old Keontae Chavis and her family had reunited at grandmother Mary's house. Keontae was closer than ever to her second cousin, Courtney. She was a cousin technically, but that term did not seem good enough. She was closer to Keontae than that, almost like an aunt. Out in the yard, Keontae, growing taller by the day, braved the cold with her cousin Todd and his brother Tyson. She loved basketball. It started from a movie, Space Jam, and she used to watch it over and over again. She could hold her own on the court, and her family was proud of how she handled the ball. Keontae could be a shy kid, but surrounded by her family, her personality shone through. She was quiet, but she had a huge presence. Keontae put passion to practice and joined the team at high school, dreaming of going to college for basketball. But the end of the basketball season brought a devastating twist of fate. Keontae sustained an injury while playing. She fell on her leg and messed up her knee. After that, she did not go back to playing. In a split second, her dreams had been shattered. It was really tough seeing her lose something she was passionate about, and she did lose confidence after that. In 2007, in Atlanta, Georgia, Keontae attended her cousin Aya's preschool graduation. Aya was 6, and Keontae showed up for her, taking an interest in helping Aya when she was sick. As a straight-A student, Keontae was a big inspiration for Aya. She was motivated and driven, wanted to get an education and achieve her goals. Since her knee injury, Keontae looked for other opportunities. She had many aspirations. She wanted to be a veterinarian, a model, and even a rapper. She had a lot of things she was interested in. By 2010, 16-year-old Keontae was a freshman at Central High School. She grew closer to her cousin, Christian Grissom Jr., known to the family as Little Chris, who had recently been spending more time in Alabama. They were close as kids, and in their family, a cousin was like a brother or sister. Keontae and Christian had a good friendship. They got along well and joked around with each other. Little Chris had a partner and 3 children in Florida, but he wanted to split his time between them and his family in Alabama. Just as Keontae had always struggled with shyness, Little Chris faced his own self-esteem issues. He was always a chubby kid who used to cry a lot, though he was really tough too. Keontae and Little Chris soon discovered a shared interest that brought them out of their shells. Chris was into hip-hop, rhyming, and creating. He had a rap name, Thirst Mega. Encouraged by him, Keontae challenged her shyness and developed a passion for rap. Her rap name was Wonderflow, a play on the word wonderful. She wrote her own music and recorded a copy for her uncle Klika, who also used to rap. Keontae sent him an email with the track, and he was amazed because he did not know she could rap. But rap was just a hobby. After graduating, she decided to follow in her uncle's footsteps and join the Air Force. She always said that she was going to help take care of the family, and that was one of the reasons she wanted to go into the military. In August of 2014, she passed the first Air Force written test with flying colors. She scored very high, and at that point, everyone believed Keontae could have done anything she wanted to put her mind to. Things in her personal life were going well, too. She had a boyfriend named Trit, who seemed like a kind person. She told her mother that one day she would love to get married and have plenty of kids. On August 6th at 6:30 in the evening, Nikwisha got a phone call from Keontae. She was excited, explaining that she had a job interview the next morning at a store called Sam's Club. She was looking forward to it. Her mother wished her good luck and promised to call her the next morning to help her prepare. The next morning, Nikwisha called her mother Gail's house, where Keontae had been staying, but Keontae was not there. A lot of things raced through her mind because she knew Keontae usually would be home at that time of the morning. Her phone went straight to voicemail. She called the manager at Sam's Club and asked if they had an interview scheduled for Keontae. He said yes, but she never showed up. That was not like Keontae. By 12 in the afternoon on August 7th, 19-year-old Keontae Chavez's uncharacteristic silence was worrying her family. Nikwisha was in Atlanta, trying to figure out what was going on, calling her phone and trying to piece things together. The last person to hear from Keontae was her grandmother Gail. That night, Keontae's car had broken down somewhere near Phoenix City, and she had called the house to let her grandmother know. That day, her cousin Little Chris had just arrived from Florida for a family visit. Grandmother Gail decided to ask him to pick Keontae up, but neither the grandmother nor Little Chris had heard from Keontae since the early hours of the morning, after Little Chris had allegedly dropped her off at the house of her boyfriend, Trey. The family headed to the local police station to report her missing, but despite their pleas, the The police insisted there was little they could do because she had been missing for less than 24 hours. They assumed she had just gone off with friends. The family was distraught, but returned home. Nikwisha called Keontae's father, Tone, who realized immediately that something was wrong. He caught a plane to Atlanta, and once in Alabama, they circled the block, asked neighbors, and put up missing person flyers. After 2 days with no contact, Grandmother Gail returned to the police station. Her car had broken down, and her cousin Christian was the one who went to help her. Little Chris had told Gail that they had both gone to a small gathering at the house of Keontae's boyfriend, Trey. Later, they supposedly left together to get something to eat, and then Christian claimed he dropped Keontae back at the boyfriend's house at 1:32 in the morning before going home. Concerned, Gail called Trey, but he said Keontae never came back to his house. He said the last time he saw her was around 8 or 9 in the evening. Only a few hours later, at 5:29 in the evening, the Russell County Sheriff's Office received a call from a family driving down a remote dirt track in Seal, Alabama. The passenger observed what she thought was a body laying on the side of the road and called 911. Chief Investigator Lieutenant Harold Smith arrived at the scene on Ridge Road. He knew immediately that it was Keontae. She had been there for a little bit of time and showed signs of decomposition. Forensic officers estimated she died sometime between 3 and 4 in the morning on August 7th. She had blunt force trauma to the head and appeared to have been strangled. By 7 in the evening, 2 hours after her body was located, officers broke the devastating news to the family. They were told to come down to the police station, where the head sheriff announced that Keontae was not coming home. It was like a physical blow. The family felt numb and angry. They were advised not to let her mother see her daughter in that condition. So Grandmother Mary and Grandmother Gail went to identify the body. On the night of August 9th, investigators interviewed everyone. Little Chris was already on his way back to Florida. While detectives tried to reach him, they spoke to Great Uncle Darrell, who corroborated that Keontae had not come home that night. They also spoke to Cousin Todd, who had walked through the timeline with Christian on the phone. Christian claimed they had been at Trey's house, left at 9:30, went to get food at Burger King, and then went to a liquor store called the Villanova. Investigators requested closed-circuit television from the liquor store. On the night of August 6th, just before 11 in the evening, they got a hit. The footage showed Christian's vehicle pulling up. Christian got out and went into the liquor store, and Keontae followed him. Everything appeared normal. They were not stressed and seemed to be having a normal night. Back in the interview rooms, they looked at other suspects. They investigated Trey, the boyfriend, but he was cooperative and his alibi was solid. His cousin Garrett, who lived with him, confirmed that Trey had left for work and that Keontae and Christian had been at the house earlier. Garrett was wearing an ankle monitor, and the global positioning system data confirmed he was at the house during the time of the death. All leads pointed back to the moment Chris said he dropped her off. When the Russell County Sheriff's Office obtained the phone records of little Chris, what they discovered blew the case wide open. His cell phone pinged off a cell tower that was 0.95 miles from the body at approximately 3 in the morning on August 7th. That meant he had to be extremely close to the body on Ridge Road. There was no place in the city that would have hit that tower. He had been there. Little Chris was nowhere to be found, but on August 11th, 2014, in Platteville, New York, he was located at his mother's house. The police arrived, arrested him, and impounded his vehicle. Lieutenant Harold Smith drove to New York with the arrest warrant. When detectives took little Chris to the station, he asked for a lawyer. However, they noticed a bite mark on his chest. It was plain and visible, perhaps a mark from Keontae trying to defend herself. While in custody, he made a phone call that was recorded where he admitted they were bite marks. Detectives spoke to his girlfriend in Florida, who emphatically stated that when he left Florida, he did not have any bite marks. Back in Alabama, they executed a search warrant on his vehicle and found a blood smear on the headliner at the dome light. The Alabama Department of Forensic Science later confirmed it was the blood of Keontae. It was hard for the family to live with the fact that the betrayal came from within their own circle. At his trial on August 28, 2017, little Chris maintained his innocence, but the evidence was overwhelming. Prosecutors theorized that after leaving the liquor store, they went driving around, ended up on that lonely, remote dirt road, and got into a fight. He strangled her, hit her in her face, and bludgeoned her to death. The jury returned a guilty verdict after being out for only 30 to 40 minutes. Christian Grissom Jr. was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life without parole. For the family, it was a cruel pill to swallow. The predators that can harm a family are not always on the outside. Sometimes they're in the family core, lurking and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. On the 6th anniversary of her death, the family reunited to release balloons in her memory. They wanted people to remember Keontae, her warm spirit, and to keep that in their hearts. They remembered the saying they put on their shirts for her funeral, that heaven could not wait for her. They loved her, and they knew they had to move forward because Keontae would not want them to be upset. She would want them to live the best lives they could until the day they would see her again in the afterlife. This is the story of a young girl with dreams that span the horizon, a child born into the embrace of a sprawling, loving family that believed she could accomplish anything she set her mind to. Her name was Keontae, and to those who watch her grow, she was a marvel, a constant source of joy and discovery. In the month of November, on the 4th day of the year 1995, the town of Newburgh, New York, became the stage for a milestone. Keontae Chavez had just turned 1 year old. Her first birthday party was held at the home of her grandmother, Mary. The house was filled with the sounds of celebration, the laughter of kin, and the hum of early 90s life. Keontae, however, was a little camera-shy, her small eyes darting around until they found the comfort of her father, Tone. He was there, lens in hand, trying to capture these fleeting seconds so that years later, they would have a window back into this exact moment. For Tone, every breath his daughter took was precious. He often marveled at how different each day was, watching her explore the world, hearing her first attempts at speech, and seeing the quick, curious way her mind grasped at the mysteries of her surroundings. He was, to put it simply, a proud father. As the family gathered to sing, the little girl warmed to the attention. Her mother, 17-year-old Niquisha Grissom, held her close. During that era, Newburgh was a city navigating complexities of a difficult social climate, often defined by economic struggles and the echoes of the crack epidemic. It was a place going through a crisis, yet within the walls of their home, young love provided a sanctuary. Niquisha and Tone had met back in the year 1993. What drew Niquisha to him was his charm, his energy, and his outgoing nature. Tone, for his part, had seen her outside her home and was immediately struck by her kindness. When they discovered they were going to be parents, they were both young and admittedly nervous. The responsibility was a heavy, beautiful weight, but it gave them both a sense of purpose. At the party, the cake was brought out, and it was a godmother, Fika, who did the honors. But the family joker, Uncle Darrell, could not resist suggesting that the birthday girl should not wait a second longer to have a taste. After the cake and the candles, Tone settled into his role, performing the little rituals of fatherhood. Back then, toys were often packed with a stubborn complexity, requiring a flurry of unscrewing and maneuvering to install batteries. For Tone, the frustration of the task was outweighed by the joy of knowing he was creating happiness for his daughter. Grandmother Mary watched over them all. She was the matriarch, the pillar, the one who held the law in her house. She was passionate, caring, and possessed a wisdom that made her the person everyone sought when they faced problems. She worked alongside Niquisha's mother, Gail, to ensure Keontae was surrounded by care while her parents balanced school and work. Time, however, is a river that carries families to different shores. As the years passed, the relationship between Tone and Nickwisher evolved, and they eventually chose to walk separate paths, moving forward as individuals but remaining connected by their daughter. In the year 1999, Nickwisher began college in Atlanta, and the decision was made for Grandma Mary and Grandmother Gail to take on the responsibility of raising Kiani full-time. It was a natural transition, as the bond between the young girl and her grandmother was profound. By the mid-2000s, the changing landscape of Newburgh prompted another shift. The city was facing significant challenges, and Grandmother Mary made a difficult but protective choice. To move the family to her hometown of Phoenix City, Alabama. It was a hard decision to make, but it was rooted in the hope for a better quality of life and a safer environment for Kiani. Alabama felt like an entirely new world, a place of forests, open skies, and quiet mornings where nature felt very close. By Thanksgiving of the year 2006, 12-year-old Keontae Chavez, as she was known to her family, had blossomed. She was growing taller, braver, and closer to her second cousin, Courtney, who was more like an aunt than a cousin. Life in Phoenix City was active. Keontae found joy in basketball, a passion ignited by the movie Space Jam and sustained by her own natural talent. She was quiet in nature, yet she possessed a huge presence on the court. She learned to handle the ball with skill and confidence, showing that even a shy girl could find her voice in the rhythm of the game. She dreamed of playing in college, a vision that motivated her studies and her daily efforts. But life has a way of introducing unexpected detours. A knee injury during a high school game shattered her basketball dreams, forcing her to step away from the sport she loved. It was a difficult transition, one that tested her confidence, but Keontae was resilient. She looked toward the future with wide-ranging aspirations. She considered becoming a veterinarian, a model, or even a rapper. She was a young woman of many interests. By the year 2010, 16-year-old Keontae was a freshman in high school and had grown increasingly close to her cousin, Christian Grissom, known to the family as Little Chris. He had been spending more time in Alabama, and the two shared a bond that felt more like that of siblings and cousins. They were both young people trying to find their places in the world. Little Chris, who had his own share of insecurities, shared a love for hip-hop with Keontae. He had even adopted a rap persona named Thirst Mega. Under his encouragement, Keontae began to explore her own musicality, adopting the name Wonder Flow. She wrote her own lyrics and shared them with her uncle, Clee, who had once been a rapper himself. It was a side of her that surprised the family, a quiet girl revealing a bold and creative spirit. As she matured, Keontae looked toward the Air Force, motivated by a desire to provide for her family and build a stable future. She studied hard, and in August of 2014, she passed her first written test with flying colors. It seemed that the world was opening up for her. Her personal life, too, seemed filled with promise. She had dreams of marriage and a family of her own one day, always keeping her mother and grandmother in her plans. On the 6th of August, around 6:30 in the evening, Nickwisher received a call from Keontae. The young girl was full of excitement, explaining that she had a job interview the following morning at a local store. She was looking forward to it, seeing it as a bridge toward her future in the military. Her mother wished her luck, promising to talk to her again the next morning. But the next morning brought a chilling silence. When Nickwisher called her mother Gail's house to check on her daughter, Keontae was not there. The hours ticked by, and the fear began to set in. Calls went to voicemail. The store where she was supposed to have her interview confirmed that she had never shown up. For someone as driven and hopeful as Keontae, missing such an important opportunity was unthinkable. The family began a desperate search. They spoke to those who had seen her last. They retraced her steps, looking for any clue, any sign. It was discovered that her car had broken down, and little Chris had been the one to help her. He claimed he had taken her to her boyfriend's house after they had spent the evening together. But when the family reached out to the boyfriend, the pieces did not fit. He insisted he had not seen her, that she had not returned. The fear which had been a low hum of anxiety, now became a piercing alarm. The local authorities were notified, but the mystery remained, a dark cloud over a family that had always been defined by its light. When the sheriff's office finally received a report of a body found on a remote dirt track in Seal, Alabama, the news tore through the heart of the family. The investigation that followed was meticulous, filled with the pain of discovery and the search for truth. Technology became a silent witness. Cell phone records and GPS data tracked the movements of that night, leading investigators to a reality that no one wanted to believe. The evidence pointed toward the one person who had been there, the one who had offered to help, the cousin who had been so close. The betrayal was a blow that shook the very foundation of their lives. A trial ensued, and in the courtroom, the arguments were laid out. The timeline of that fateful night was reconstructed, and a verdict was eventually reached. Christian Grissom was found guilty, a conclusion that provided legal closure, but could never mend the deep, aching void left behind. In the years that followed, the family found themselves navigating a new existence. They learned that the shadows they had feared from the outside world had been hiding in their midst, but they also learned about the strength of their own spirit. They chose not to let the darkness consume them. They organized, they gathered, and they remembered. They released balloons into the sky, a symbolic gesture of love and letting go. They spoke of Keontae's warm spirit, her intelligence, her ambition, and her beautiful, quiet presence. They found that the most powerful thing they could do was to move forward. They reminded each other that Keontae would not want them to be stuck in grief. She would want them to live, to laugh, and to cherish the time they had. The family, which had always been the center of her world, became the center of each other's support. They found a way to honor her by living the best lives they could, keeping her memory alive not through the tragedy of her loss, but through the triumph of the love she inspired. This is a legacy of a young girl with big dreams. It is a story about the fragility of life, the resilience of the human heart, and the enduring power of family. It serves as a reminder to cherish the people around us, to listen to the quiet voices, and to hold on tight to the moments that define who we are. Even in the face of the most profound heartbreak, there is a path forward, paved with memory and an unwavering, quiet hope that one day, in the fullness of time, love will bring everything back together again. The family keeps moving, one day at a time, holding Keontae in their hearts, a shining star in the constellation of their lives. They teach us that even when the night is dark, the morning still comes, and with it, the grace to endure and the courage to smile again for her and for the life that she lived so briefly, but so brightly. This is the story of a young girl with big dreams. I believe Keontae could have done anything that she wanted to put her mind to, and she was supported by a large family who loved her. She had a family to raise her, to guide her, and to cheer for her as she grew into her own person. But sometimes, even when a family is close and loving, a shadow can fall when backs are turned. It is a story of how a peaceful life can be interrupted, but it is also a story of resilience, of a mother's enduring love, and of a family that refused to let the darkness be the final word in their lives. To the family, the questions were always there. Did this really happen to us? To us, this family, did this really happen? To understand the path, we must go back to the beginning. It was November 4th, 1995, in Newburgh, New York. Keontae had just turned 1 year old. Her first birthday party was held at the home of her grandmother, Mary. The atmosphere was filled with warmth and laughter, the kind of celebration that creates the foundation of a childhood. Keontae was a little camera shy, looking quickly for the reassuring face of her father, Tone. Tone would later say that he could not do it with his glasses on that day because his eyes were filled with emotion. Her mother was there, too, and her habit in those days was to record everything on video so that she could have it as a treasure to look back on as the years passed. For Tone, every single moment with his daughter was precious. He felt that the early days of Keontae being a baby were a marvel. It was as if every day brought something different, like watching her grow, watching her learn to say things, and watching her discover the world around her. She was already exploring, trying to understand everything she encountered. Tone was very proud of her. When the family sang, little Kiani began to warm up to the attention. Her mother, Nikwisha, who was 17 years old at the time, held her close. In the 1990s, Newburgh was a place that was dealing with the challenges of a changing time, specifically the widespread issues brought on by the crack epidemic. It was a time of uncertainty for many, where people struggled with employment and the broader social crisis. But to the people who lived there, it was not just a place of struggle. It was their home. When Nikwisha and Tone had met back in 1993, their young love was enough to sustain them. Nikwisha found in Tone a companion who was cute, who possessed a sense of style, and who had an outgoing personality. Tone had seen her out in front of her house and thought she was a kind person, so he introduced himself to get to know her better. When they found out they were expecting, they were surprised with a blessing, though it came with the nervousness that accompanies a new life. Nikwisha was frightened because she did not know what her parents would think, or how her grandmother, with whom she lived, would feel about the situation. Tone, for his part, was shocked, wondered what to expect of that responsibility. He asked himself if he would be a good father or a bad one. Yet, when the baby was born, he realized that becoming a father had changed him. It made him feel that now he had a true purpose in life. The godmother of the baby, Fika, cut the cake at the party, while the family joker, Uncle Daryl, insisted that the little one should not have to wait to get a taste of the sweetness. They called her by her nickname, and after the cake and the candles, Tone made the most of his time playing dad, attending to the little rituals of parenthood. Back then, they used to make toys so difficult to access that one had to unscrew many different pieces just to get to the batteries. But Tone found that even those small tasks made him feel good as a father. Great-grandmother Mary watched over her. She was a woman who was very passionate, very caring, and very kind, and she loved to help people. She was the one that everyone went to when they had problems or issues. She was the steady person in their lives. Mary and the mother of Nikwisha, Gail, often took care of the little girl, while Tone worked and Nikwisha attended school. Grandma Mary was like the head of the family, the enforcer, the judge, the person who made the decisions, and one did not question Grandma Mary. Whatever she said was a law. The family was all smiles for camera, but life is often defined by the choices that follow the celebrations. Nikwisha and Tone dated for a time, but things went their own way. Tone was young and felt invincible, as if he could have the world. A few years after the video of the birthday party was taken, Tone and Nikwisha decided to split. They were no longer interested in each other in that way, and they both went their separate ways. In 1999, Nikwisha began college in Atlanta. Great-grandmother Mary and grandmother Gail agreed to take care of the daughter full-time. It was not a difficult decision because the bond between the grandmother and the girl was so strong. It was a bond much like the one the mother had shared with her own grandmother, so she was comfortable with the arrangement. However, by the middle of the 2000s, Newburgh had one of the highest crime rates in the country. Grandmother Mary made the difficult decision to move the family to the safety of her hometown, Phoenix City, Alabama. That was a hard decision to accept, but a part of the mother knew that it was the best thing to do to get her daughter out of the environment so she could have a better chance at a better quality of life. Moving to Alabama was like night and day. There were forests and trees, and at one time, they even saw a deer mating in the front yard. It was a completely different world. By Thanksgiving of 2006, the family had reunited at the house of grandmother Mary. Phoenix City was a new chapter. The girl, now 12 years old, was closer than ever to her second cousin, Courtney. Even though they were cousins by blood, the term did not seem good enough, for they were closer than that. It was as if they were aunt and niece. Out in the yard, the girl, growing taller by the day, braved the cold with her cousin Todd and his brother Tyson. She loved basketball. It had started from the movie Space Jam, and she used to watch that film over and over and over again. She could hold her own on the court, and her family was proud because she truly knew how to handle the ball. She could be a shy kid, but surrounded by her family and on the basketball court, her personality shone through. She was quiet, but she had a huge presence. She put her passion into practice and joined the team at her high school, dreaming of going to college to play basketball. But life has a way of turning the page when one least expects it. The end of the basketball season brought a devastating twist of fate. She sustained an injury while playing. She fell on her leg, and she messed her knee up. After that, she just did not go back to playing. In a split second, her dreams of basketball had been shattered. It was really tough for her family to see her stop doing something she was passionate about, and she did lose some of her confidence after that. In 2007, in Atlanta, Georgia, the family gathered for preschool graduation of her cousin Aya. Aya was 6 years old. The older cousin was there, showing up for Aya, and she seemed to take an interest in helping Aya when she was sick. She was a straight-A student who had been a big inspiration for her younger cousin. She was a person who cared about getting good grades. She was very motivated and driven by the idea that she was going to get an education and achieve her goals. Since her knee injury, she had put basketball behind her and started looking for other opportunities. She had a lot of aspirations. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She wanted to become a model. She wanted to become a rapper. She had so many things she was interested in. By 2010, 16-year-old Keontae was a freshman at Central High School. She had grown closer to her cousin, Christian Grissom Jr., known to the family as Little Chris, who had recently been spending more time in Alabama. They had been close as kids, him and his sisters staying at the house of Grandma Mary. They were cousins, but in that family, a cousin was almost like a brother or a sister. They got along well, joking around with each other. Little Chris had a partner and 3 children in Florida, but he wanted to split his time between them and his family in Alabama. After all, he was one of the favorite grandchildren of Grandma Mary. Just as Keontae had always struggled with shyness, Little Chris had faced his own self-esteem issues. He had been a chubby child, and he used to cry a lot, though he was also very tough. Sometimes people cry because they have built up emotions that they do not know how to properly channel. But Keontae and Little Chris soon discovered a shared interest that helped bring them out of their shells. Chris was into hip-hop, and he was writing and rhyming. Keontae was amazed, and when she found out, she was inspired. Encouraged by Little Chris, Keontae challenged her shyness and developed her own passion for rap. Her rap name was Wonderflow, a play on the word wonderful. She wrote her own music and recorded a copy for her uncle, who had also used a rap. When she sent to him, he was taken by surprise. He had not known she could rap, and it was a revelation that showed a new side of her personality. But rap was just a hobby. After graduating, she decided to follow in the footsteps of her uncle and join the Air Force. She always said that she was going to help take care of the family, and that was one of the reasons she wanted to go into the military. In August of 2014, she passed the first Air Force written test with flying colors. She scored very high. At that point in time, her family believed she could have done anything that she wanted to put her mind to. And things in her personal life were going well, too. She had a boyfriend, and she told her mother that one day she would love to get married and have plenty of children. When her mother asked her who was going to take care of all those children, she had laughed and said, "You and Mommy." On August 6th, at 6:30 in the evening, her mother received a phone call from Keontae. She was explaining that she had a job interview the next morning at a store. When she talked about the interview, she was very excited and looking forward to it. It was fantastic news, as it would be enough income to support her until she joined the Air Force. The mother ended the conversation, wishing her daughter good luck and letting her know that she would call her the next morning to talk and get her prepared for the interview. The next morning, the mother called the house of her mother, Gail, where Keontae had been staying. She called the house to check on her, but Keontae was not there. A lot of things raced through the mind of the mother, because she knew that her daughter usually would be home at that time of the morning. She called her several times, but her phone went to voicemail. She called the store to speak with the manager and asked if they had an interview scheduled for Keontae that morning. The manager said yes, but she never showed up. That was not like Keontae to miss the interview, especially not something she was looking so forward to. After she heard that news, the mother became frightened because she knew something was wrong. By 12 in the afternoon on August 7th, the 19-year-old had been silent for too long. Her mother was still in Atlanta, trying to figure out what was going on, still calling her phone to see why she was not answering. The last person to hear anything from Keontae was her grandmother, Gail. That night, when Keontae went missing, her car had broken down somewhere near Phoenix City. She had called the house to let her grandmother know. That day, her cousin little Chris had just arrived from Florida for a family visit. The grandmother had decided to tell him to go and pick Keontae up, but neither the grandmother nor little Chris had heard from Keontae since the early hours of the morning, after little Chris had dropped her off at the house of her boyfriend. The family headed to the local police station to report her missing, but despite their pleas, as she had been missing for less than 24 hours, the police insisted there was little they could do. Typically, when someone is reported missing, the police assume they have just gone off with friends or perhaps do not want to be found at that point. They believe that 99% of the time, missing persons are found. The family was distraught, but with little choice, they returned home.